Don't mind me, just walking up the street with 2 big knives. Ciao. Buongiorno. Che tipo di palla è?
Questa è pancetta, che si mette in percentuale a questa che è la coscia del maiale.
Ah, okay. This is my father-in-law, Papa Turi. I've said this before, but one thing I love about living in a small Italian town is that everyone has their own culinary specialty. Mama Rosa makes the best meatballs. Zia Maria makes the best gnocchi. If you want the best kuriiki, you go to this person. If you want the best nicatole, you go to this other person. Papa Turi has his own specialty, aged foods. For example, he ages his own cheese. I happen to think it's the best cheese in the world. This is Papa Turi's cheese. This is gold, actual gold, better than gold, more valuable than gold. You might have seen him on the channel before making his aged bracciole under lard. The art of preserving food is his primary purpose in life. And today I'm here to show you how he makes one of his masterpieces, salami.
Vuoi un po' di salame, papà? Salame?
No. La salame non la faccio io.
But not just any salami, spicy Calabrian salami. By the way, I should explain where we are. This is Papa Turi's house. He has his own house, which was passed down to him from his uncle, who was the priest here in Dasa.
Questo è mio zio.
E chi è?
Questa è mia nonna.
Ah. No one lives here. It's just a place for food projects. This is Johnny. You may have met him on the channel before. He's quite a character around town. He's a good old boy. He can do anything. And we're gonna need his help because sadly, as Papa Turi gets older, he's losing his ability to make some of his favorite foods. As you'll soon see, making salami is very hands-on, and Turi just isn't physically capable to do the work anymore. He's in charge and it's his recipe, but he needs some muscle. In a way, that brings me to something important, the goal of this video. I hate to even say it out loud, but Papa Turi obviously won't be around forever. And someday when he's gone, God willing, not for a long time, we don't want his amazing food and his knowledge to be lost with him. So I'm on a mission to learn as many of his secrets as possible. That way I can keep up the traditions and also create some sort of document and record of these foods. That's what this video is. Here's what it's not. This is not a how-to on how you can make salami at home. For reasons which you'll see, I don't recommend trying to replicate this at home. That's not to say that you won't learn some useful tips and tricks. Certainly get some inspiration for things you can try on your own. But my imaginary lawyers have strongly urged me to say that you should not do everything you are about to see by yourself. More on that later. Right now, we really need to get started on cutting the meat.
La tagliamo a due e la dobbiamo fare a striscette.
Ok.
A striscette. Così, poi ancora, facciamo ancora a striscette.
Più stretta.
Più stretta, ok.
Ecco.
Così?
Sì.
Tu quando la vedi, no? Ti fai striscette, ti fai tanto. Dopo quella tagliata fino a fine, no?
Okay. Ciao. That's when Ava showed up. Did you think she wasn't gonna get in on the action?
Qua si taglia fino a fine così, hai capito?
Sì.
Hai capito?
So basically, all we were doing was cutting the meat into little tiny pieces. That's really all there is to it. But what kind of meat? Well, it's pork, that might be obvious. But beyond that, the actual cuts don't matter too much. Here we were using mostly pork belly and leg, but you can use shoulder or pretty much anything you want. Don't even bother trying to ask anyone here for some sort of ratio of what you should use. Everything is just picked by eye, by feel, by what's available. What's important is that you have plenty of fat.
Comunque c'è gente che ha salami hanno senza grasso.
Senza grasso ti diventa nera.
Questo qua Pepe.
Just so you know, one of my nicknames in town is Pepe. Long story.
Questo qua, Pepe, gli dà la morbidezza a salame.
Sì, sì.
Molta gente no?
Anche il gusto, il sapore.
Il sapore, la morbidezza. Tanta gente non lo mette, è sbagliato.
No.
Ne mettono pochissimo. Ne scendere pure la salami, eh?
Sì.
Per me la carne senza grassa è come niente.
Now, salami making is not something you can do just any time of the year. Well, I guess you can, but you don't. In fact, this is my first time witnessing the process because it's actually the first time I've been here during this period of the year when they make salami. Here they raise their pigs from the spring, through the summer, through the fall, through the winter, and then they slaughter them in the period right before Lent, which is the time of Carnevale. Historically, that was the only time of year that you could count on having fresh pork meat. Obviously, you wouldn't just pig out completely and eat all of your meat in that little period where you've slaughtered your pig, but you want to find a way to preserve your precious meat to last you throughout the rest of the year. That's why, still to this day, this is salami making season.
Allora tu pensi domenica che facevano, no? Facevano la salami, facevano andouille, la cervellata. La cervellata era un tipo di salame che facevano con l'interiore, facevano i costati sotto mazza, la carne salata, i polpetti sotto grasso, una volta.
Sotto grasso?
Le polpette?
Sì.
Sì.
Come bracciole sotto grasso?
Come i braccioli.
This is the first I've heard about lard preserved meatballs. I'm gonna need to ask around about that one and report back.
Allora, devo carnevale vero e proprio non resta manco 30% ormai. La sofisticazione è quella che è. Nessuno si dedica. E una volta che poi si facendo con l'intelligenza animale.
Sì.
Poi con l'intelligenza artificiale lo siamo combinati.
Now, cutting 15 kilograms of meat, that's about 33 pounds, by hand into tiny pieces takes hours, and I won't bore you with too much of it.
Io ho sempre detto con la vita mia, se tornerei a nascere un'altra volta, a macellaio per cazzo. Madonna, quanto mi piace a me taglio carne.
I did not know this about you.
No?
No.
Sì.
But you may be wondering, why not just grind the meat? If you buy salami in a store, it was made with a grinder. If you find some home salami recipe to try on your own, it'll tell you to use a grinder. Much easier, much faster, but
Tagliata a mano.
Che so boutique.
Senza miglio.
When you use ground meat to do the sausage like they do in a shop, it's not the same thing because, I don't know, it's like you need to try to understand the difference because basically you can say, okay, it's meat with salt and pepper, yes, but it's more than this. So when you cut by hands and then you mix, it's different.
a few hours and a couple blisters later, we were finally done. And we're done. All the meat cut.
Ma che bello! È una sensazione bellissima, sai? It's too good as a sensation. Put your hands inside.
What is wrong with her? What am I learning about my wife today? There was still plenty to do, but it was time for lunch, courtesy of Mama Rosa. By the way, in case you're wondering who's filming while I'm helping to make salami, it's my brother William.
Ma in italiano com'è Guglielmo?
Guglielmo.
Ah sì, è Guglielmo.
Kind of a funny thing happened during lunch. Johnny has been in a ton of our videos, but until that day, he had never, ever seen one of them. He just got his first smartphone recently, and so we showed him how to use YouTube.
Non arrivo, brigante. Guarda che serio, guarda. Buono bagetto, Guarda che contento, è mito, Enzo.
For pretty much the rest of the day, he was just catching up on Pastagrammer videos. So if you hear a weird tinny version of my voice in the background, that's why. It's because he's watching our videos. Speaking of smartphones and being able to watch YouTube videos in rural Calabria, in a house that has never heard of the word Wi-Fi, It's time for a quick word about today's video sponsor, UBG. When you travel these days, one frustrating problem you are sure to encounter is how the heck do I get data on my phone? No one wants to pay a buttload for roaming charges, but your other option is to go into a cell phone store in a foreign country. You know how hard it is to figure out cell phone plans in your own language, right? Now try to do it in a language you barely understand. The solution is an eSIM data plan from UBG. An eSIM is an electronic SIM. That means you can set up a temporary data plan on your phone without ever needing to pop that little SIM card out with a needle you always lose. All you gotta do is download the UBG app, find a plan that is customized for you in one of the over 200 destinations worldwide that they offer. Just a few setup taps through the app and you're good to go. As soon as you arrive in your destination, you're all set to surf the web, use your GPS, check your email, watch a pastagrammer video on YouTube, no surprise roaming fees, no commitment, recharge whenever it's convenient for you. This is the best way to get the precious data you need while on the road. One of the best things about UBG is that you can reload your plan at any time, even if you're not on Wi-Fi. So download the app now just in case you ever need it. The app is completely free and good to have in an emergency. Click the link down in the description below and use promo code PASTAGRAMMAR for a 10% discount on your international eSIM plan. A big thank you to UBG for sponsoring this video. After lunch, it was time to season the meat. Enter Johnny's wife, Maria, who is a salami expert in her own right. The seasoning is done with just 2 ingredients. The first being salt. This is the only time in the entire process where you will see anything be measured.
15 no, 35 per 15 diciamo.
Vero.
Per 35 quanto?
525.
525 grammi.
Through trial and error, Turi knows that he likes 35 grams of salt per kilogram of meat.
Basta, basta.
The second seasoning is Calabrian chili powder. There is no measuring here, but you need a lot. You need so much chili pepper, in fact, that the air literally becomes toxic.
Madonna.
Sì, Madonna, ancora un mese e dice Madonna.
This is making mustard gas.
Tutta papà.
Ancora un mese.
Sono i mascarini.
Ancora un mese,
Arrivavo, professore, arrivavo.
Sì, arrivavo.
The coughing continued, as did the addition of more spicy pepper.
Tutto momentito.
Certo.
Oh papà, non è che può imballire. Piccante sì, avvelenata che non ti può avvicinare, no?
Dopo mangiare.
All right, so we've got all of our meat here, and I guess what's going to happen now is we let this sit, let it soak up all the salt and pepper overnight, and then tomorrow we keep going. There was one thing left to do before the day was over, and that was cleaning the pig intestines. Now, these days you can buy salami and sausage casing that is all prepped and cleaned and cut and ready to use. But not here. Here, you have to clean your own, and that's exactly what Maria did. This was also not a quick task. For obvious reasons, this isn't something you want to rush. You basically have to thoroughly rinse the intestines in cold water, trim the connective tissue off, cut them to size, and turn them all inside out, and repeat. Finally, you add a bunch of lemon juice and let them soak overnight.
Allora ci vediamo domani.
Ciao, Eva. I'm on my way up. Why? Which small pan? And a spoon. Okay. Ciao. Going back. Okay, take 2. So, it's day 2. We have our meat. We have our freshly cleaned intestines. Now we gotta actually make the sausage. But before we could do so, we had to check and make sure that our seasoning was perfect. And how do you do that? You cook some of the meat.
Un hamburger. This is un hamburger.
That's when the chemical warfare began again.
Paola fa mangia piccante.
Ma se non c'è
Non mi mangia.
Eva, questa Maria, mo personaggio, tu lo sa perché? A cucina non la mangia noi, adesso perché non piccante la mangia solo
Chi sta piccante in cinura? Vorrei mandarlo. Mamma mia.
Oh God. Gauroso.
Basta, va. Vuoi capire?
Ah, ma mo dalla Spagna, non è mezzo, ma sa la Spagna.
Unsurprisingly, Papa Turi was dead right. We all tried it, the meat was delicious. It was perfect. We were so wrong to doubt him. But the thing with salami is that the heat of the chili pepper, it mellows a lot as it ages. So you always actually want to go a little bit more spicy than seems right. Even the intestines got a healthy dose of chili pepper. Now it was time to, well, make the salami. It's a pretty simple process, same as making sausage. You'll need a meat grinder, although you don't actually use the grinder attachment, just the tube feeder. You slide a section of casing onto the tube, tie off the end, and start cranking meat through. Once the casing is full, you tie it off at the other end. It's very important that you puncture the casing a bunch of times with sterilized needles. This allows air and moisture to escape so that the salami dries properly. Once that's done, you can tie the whole thing off into smaller salami, depending on how big you want them. At this point, you might be wondering where Eva and Papa Turi got off to. Well, they were in a different room, handling another one of Papa Turi's aged specialties, olives. These were olives that he had been brining with chili pepper and oregano for months, and now it's time to spread them out and let them dry. But that's a subject for another video. Back to the salami. Johnny and Maria were finishing off the last of the sausages, and that meant it was time to celebrate. Very important.
Le spariamo una bombetta. William, un po' di vino?
Sì, grazie. In cielo non c'è vino.
Salute.
Salute ragazzi. Bang, bong, pressure, bang.
Just like the meat the day before, Papa Turi likes to let the sausages rest overnight before continuing on to the final stage. This final stage happens in the basement and begins with more wine.
Questa è l'ultima.
L'ultima?
L'ultima parte di sotizzi.
Ah, penultima, che l'ultima è quando si mangiano pressure. E la penultima, che poi noi mangiamo.
Chi è nato scuccio? Adorano. Profumano.
Adesso sparo sentare lo stile una resta che ste canna con più svaporamento del pipi. La storia è sempre chi è professore. Cosa bevevano i nostri nonni? William.
Assolutamente.
Grazie.
La salute, Peppe.
Salute.
William.
Salute.
Professore.
Cin cin.
Aspetta, no, aspetta.
Tu sai.
Peppe.
First, we had to get the salami ready to hang, which means tying little loops in the strings at the end. Gotta make sure they're really tight. No one wants to eat salami that's fallen on the ground. The idea is to hang the salami from something called a naka, where long bamboo poles are suspended from the ceiling. Every house in Calabria used to have a naka, and most still do. Nowadays, they're in a basement or a garage, but back in the day when families were bigger and you had a lot less space, they might be in your bedroom.
C'era sotto la naca c'era un letto di Caterini, dormivano Caterini e Domenica. A questa naca papà i sotizzi. Una bella notte, hanno un bello punto, si stacca sto prosciutto. Caterini come dormiva? Come ci cattò prosciutto in cuoio? Ai.
Quanto tempo ci vuole per la maturazione?
Almeno 30 giorni.
Ok.
Poi dipendono dagli ambienti, poi si asciugano.
Sì.
Questo è bello asciutto, questo ambiente. Se fosse stato umido ci metterebbe di più.
Sì.
Però nell'umido non vanno bene. Invece quando è asciutto così, si maturano meglio.
Now, I just want to quickly point out that when Johnny says it's dry, that is very relative. Calabria is a quite humid place, so please don't take away from this that a really dry environment is good for making salami. For instance, we used to live in Arizona, absolutely impossible there.
E come si capisce quando...
Dalla durezza. Si stingono e diventano compatti. Poi li conosci, se vengono bene, li conosci pure dalla muffa che fanno. Se fanno una muffa bianca è ok.
Perfetto.
Se fanno una muffa colorata non vanno bene. Però c'è un'altra cosa. I chili così non vanno bene. I chili vanno dritti.
Così non toccano...
No, è una smania mia questa. Mi piace vederli tutti dritti. È una mania.
And now that the salami is done, we just have to wait. Now, before we get to the finished salami, I do want to quickly go back and address why I don't recommend that you try exactly what you've seen here at home. Number one is the aging environment. If you go online and look up salami recipes, they'll give you these really specific things like, you need to age salami in a place that is this temperature with this humidity and this amount of airflow, and it's very, very specific. Here, if you ask Papa Turi, like, what's the temperature and humidity of your basement where your family has been aging salami for who knows how many generations, he couldn't tell you. He doesn't know. He doesn't attempt to control it in any way. He just knows, because this knowledge has been passed down to him, that if I follow these steps and do this and hang this in this basement, which is what I have, it works. I did sneak a little thing into Papa Turi's basement to measure the temperature and humidity, if you're curious to know. But someone who's coming into this completely new and is just trying to learn from scratch, you don't have Papa Turi's specific basement. So that's a case where I would encourage you to look at people who are much more knowledgeable than us about how to make salami in different environments or how to have controlled aging chambers, that sort of thing. Second biggest reason you probably don't want to try Papa Turi's recipe specifically, and that is the danger of botulism. Anytime you find a recipe for aged meats, salami, all that kind of stuff, they're going to tell you to use curing salts. Curing salts are chemical compounds that you add into the meat mix, and it kills harmful bacteria that can cause botulism. Now, I talked about these in a video where I made andouille, so apologies if I'm repeating information, but it's pretty important information. Botulism is super dangerous. Nobody here does that. Nobody uses curing salts. They don't even know what those are. And there's sort of good reason for that because they do change the taste and the color. Everyone here just makes it this way. This is how they've always made it, and they're just gonna keep making it that way. I'm willing to take the risk personally, but I would never encourage you to do so. So please, if you make salami at home, look up a guide that is meant for the 21st century maybe. Now the moment I'm most excited for. This here is the end result. Now, obviously, this is not the salami that we made, because as you know, it needs to age for a while. I had two options when making this video. One was to wait until it was completely done, but then if I did that, then I wouldn't be able to release the video until long after salami making season, and I wanted to do it right in the period. So instead, here, I have some from last year, so you can see how it ends up. Now, I do need to point something out really quick. Throughout this whole video, I've been calling it salami, which is technically true. This is a type of salami. But if you want to be more specific, these are called sotizzi. There are really two types of Calabrian salami. There's sotizzi and then there's sopressata, which is just this, but bigger. Look at how much it shrinks. I mean, that's crazy, right? Oh, it smells so good. All right, I'm excited to try this. I mean, I've had it many times before. I know what it is. I know what it tastes like. That is the beautiful texture that you only get from hand-cut meat. You do want to take the casing off. Not that it'll kill you. I've definitely accidentally eaten it before, but it's not the most fun thing to eat. All right, guys, buon appetito. One of the highlights of every Sunday here in Dessau is that Sunday lunch always comes with a plate of Papa Turi's sliced sotizzi. And I, for one, am very glad that at least as long as I live, the tradition can go on. A big thank you to Papa Turi, Johnny, and Maria for sharing their knowledge with me. Thank you to Mama Rosa for keeping us fed during the process. And thank you for watching. I hope that you guys appreciate our mission to try and preserve these traditions. If that's the case, if you like what we're doing, please give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you want to support the channel, come check us out over on Patreon. In fact, I'd like to shout out one of our gracious patrons, Don, who made a fantastic looking Valentine's Day meal, including an impressive polpettone, Italian stuffed meatloaf, and torta di mele di Sant'Orfeo, which is an incredible, delicious, and healthy apple cake. Thank you, Don, for trying them. It looks fantastic. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
Lo sa cosa sto fischiettando? L'hai riconosciuto cosa sto fischiettando? Village People.
Ah, sì.
Anni 70-80.